Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Heidi Kenny, and today we're going to make kimchi. I love fermented foods, and I really believe in fermented foods for your gut health, your overall health, and your skin health. The first thing we're going to do is cut our Napa cabbage in half. And I'm going to look in here to see if there's any gross parts and kind of pull them out. All right, we're ready for rinsing. Now that the cabbage is rinsed, we're going to salt the cabbage and let it soak for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending. The purpose of salting your vegetables before you prepare them for fermentation is twofold. One, it draws out some of the moisture, and two, salt actually helps to encourage the healthy and the good bacteria. It kind of gives them the green light to go ahead and come on out and do their job. So let's get started. I have coarse sea salt here. I'm going to pour some into a bowl so that I don't make a mess. And I just do my best to sprinkle it in between each leaf. And some of your leaves will break off, and that's fine. So there is actually two ways to do kimchi. This is the more traditional way where I'm not going to cut it up at first. I prefer when I'm doing kimchi to leave it whole like this. I just find that it keeps everything a little bit crispier. I don't like soggy kimchi. And I find that when you dice it up into bite-sized pieces before you do this step and before you add your chili paste and all the things that are going to go on it after, I just find that I get soggy kimchi, and I'm not a fan. I like it crunchy. So while we wait on our Napa cabbage to do its thing, which every 20 to 30 minutes I'll be flipping it so that it gets a good nice rotation, and we'll show you the process of what it looks like as the cabbage loses its water and does its thing. So while that is going, we are going to prep all of the rest of the vegetables, and there's a sauce that we have to make in order to create the kimchi paste. And that is what makes all of the flavor. So we have scallions, ginger, a Daikon radish. I cheat and I just get the pre-shredded carrots. Carrots are not mandatory in kimchi. A lot of people don't like it in their kimchi. I do. I like the addition of the Daikon radish and the carrots in kimchi simply because it does give you that extra fermentation of extra vegetables. And so for me, if I'm going to be eating fermented food, I like as many vegetables as possible because then I know that I'm getting an enormous amount of really good bacteria into my gut. And the other thing is ginger, red chili pepper flakes, and then we're gonna make a little sauce with glutinous rice flour. You can use sweet rice flour, which is what this is, or you can use glutinous rice flour, which I also do have that, but I'm gonna use this today. And over medium heat, I've got about 2.5 cups of water and about 3 tablespoons of the glutinous rice flour. So we let this, it'll take a minute for it to come to temperature, and then I'm gonna let it soft boil for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna add a couple tablespoons of sugar. So sugar is also good for fermentation because it also encourages healthy bacteria to grow in your vegetables as they're fermenting. By the time you're done with the fermentation process, it doesn't taste sweet at all. You don't even notice the sugar in it. All the healthy bacteria has eaten all the sugar because that's what they use for food. We're almost there. Okay, this is pretty hot. And you can see it's kind of doing a little low boil there. So we're gonna go ahead and add our sugar. Reduce the heat just a little bit. So the color is changing just a little bit. It's kind of hard to notice, but it'll get a little bit more of a translucent kind of color. And then you know it's pretty well done. Okay, that actually looks good. So now I'm gonna remove it from heat and I'm gonna set it aside and let it cool. So this takes about the same amount of time to cool as it takes for our cabbage to finish with its salting process. So now we need to flip our cabbage. You can see it's kind of like had a mind of its own here and lift it up a little bit. We're just gonna take it and flip it over. And now it's time to prep some of our other vegetables for sauce. All right, so in my food processor, I'm going to take some regular onion. And let's see, and about 20 cloves of garlic and some ginger. I'm gonna add some chili flakes. This can get pretty spicy, so I typically don't add as much as the recipe calls for. All right, now we're gonna prep our scallions and our daikon radish. And some of these are a little bit too big actually, so I'm gonna take them out. But another one of our favorite kinds of kimchi is daikon radish kimchi, which I was gonna do some just daikon radish kimchi, but I ended up using that daikon radish for something else that I did. So it'll just be little additions to our Napa Cabbage kimchi. All right, our other favorite kind of kimchi is cucumber kimchi. So for this, I use an English cucumber, and I made more than enough sauce so that I can do both my Napa Cabbage and my cucumber kimchi all in one go. All right, and just like with the cabbage, we need to salt. So the cucumber doesn't take very long at all. You can kind of see that it's a little bit flimsy. So I'm going to rinse the cucumber, but first I'm going to take off just a tiny little skosh, about a tablespoon of its salt water, and I'm going to add that to my mix. All right, so I'm going to go rinse these and I'll be right back. All right, so because I'm going to be mixing the chili paste mix that we made into these cucumbers, I am going to wear gloves. Okay. And this is our paste. And our reserved salt water. And let's see. It's good. Very good. So this is the jar that I'll be fermenting the cucumbers in. So now you want to push down as hard as you can because you want to try to get as much of the air out as possible. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to clean my jar off a little bit here. I'm going to use this. This is going to act as a little weight, which will help because as this starts to ferment, it's going to get a little bit liquidy and it will help keep everything submerged underneath the liquid. It's all ready to go. And I'm going to go put this on a counter and we will check in on it. And even just in a few hours, we'll see a difference in the moisture level here. But then tomorrow, we'll be able to see these tiny little bubbles coming up, and that's the exciting part. So I'm going to go ahead and mix the rest of my paste together. Oh, kitty, you want some kimchi paste? Are you hungry? You want some kimchi paste, kitty? Yeah? Yummy. Okay, that looks pretty good. You want it to be saucy without being runny. All right, and now all we gotta do is wait on our Napa cabbage to finish salting. All right, so our cabbage is ready to be rinsed. You can see that it's deflated quite a bit with a lot of the water that has come out of it. So there's a lot of water in the bottom of the dish here. And now I'm gonna go rinse and I'll be right back. All right, now for the fun part. All right, now that they're all covered in the kimchi paste, I'm going to put them in this bowl. You press it down as hard as you can to try to get as much of the air out as possible. Okay, I'm going to put a lid on this and put it with my cucumber kimchi, and then tomorrow we'll check on it. All right, all set. So this is 24 hours after our kimchi, and you can see how much more liquidy it is. Because of the fermentation weight in there, it's kind of keeping it from looking bubbly. But let's see. Yep, you can smell that it's starting to ferment a little bit. That's nice. And now this. Looking good. Smells good. I can smell that it's fermenting. And you can see how much more liquid there is in here also. Press on it a little bit, make sure that any air all right, welcome back. Day 2 of kimchi. Bubbles. You can see the fermentation bubbles. smells nice and yeah, all those bubbles that come up, that's what you want to see. It's the carbonation that starts from the kimchi. Let's taste this little guy. It could actually probably sit for another day, but what I'm going to do is chop it up and put it in these jars, and then I probably will let it sit for another day. So when I'm packing it in, I'm really trying to get as much air out as possible for the final ferment. All right, so now we have 2.5 jars of kimchi. I'm going to let them sit out on the counter for another night, maybe 2. So I'm doing this kimchi in the winter time, so my house is about 67 to 69 degrees, and temperature matters when you're fermenting. Sometimes I can let my fermentation sit out another day or 2 longer during the winter because fermentation happens slower in cooler temperatures. So in the summertime, when my house is a little bit warmer, my fermentation is just done in about 2 days for the kimchi. I will be doing another video where I do sauerkraut, and that one, the fermentation takes a lot longer. All right, here we are. Kimchi is finished. It's actually been in the refrigerator for a couple of days. I was unable to film the last couple of days of what it looks like, which is kind of unfortunate because the fermentation process and the bubbles are really cool to see. But here we are, homemade kimchi. Let's have a taste. That is really good. I love homemade kimchi, and I do mine vegan style, as I think I've told you already in this video. But I really love it, and I love all the different ways that you can make kimchi. You can add or delete ingredients to your liking. It's just really good. I'll list all of the ingredients that I used down below, as well as if you're curious about where I got my kimchi recipe. This is one of my favorite Korean cookbooks. She also has a YouTube channel, which I'll also link in the comments. And this is where I based my recipe off of. So I got this cookbook right off of Amazon, and you can too. And if you're interested in Korean cooking, this is a really great place to start. I love cooking Korean, I think, as you may know by now. This book is awesome. So there's the whole ingredient list, how to make kimchi, what the process is, and then there's also these beautiful photos that she puts in here of the whole process. So I love this book. It's kind of my go-to. You can see I've got a bunch of things tabbed here of all my favorite things. So I highly recommend that if you're interested in making kimchi or even starting with Korean food, that you start here. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Esthetician Life and how to make kimchi. I look forward to seeing you again soon.